Today our focus is going to be on writing an equation in slope-intercept form from two coordinates. So you're going to see SIF written a lot, and it's simply slope-intercept form. I just can't fit slope-intercept form written out every single time. So our first example, our coordinates are 12, -18, and 11, 12. Now, our first thing we need to do is to find the slope. So our formula I have written out for you is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And remember, up here, this is x1, y1, x2, y2. So when I go to plug in, I'm going to have 12 minus -18 over 11 minus 12. Up on the top, remember, we're going to keep change, and we're going to end up with 30 over 11 minus 12 is -1. 30 over -1 can simply be written as -30. So my slope is -30. Now there's a few of you I showed a different way to solve slope, and I'm going to work it out over here to the side for you. So some of us were struggling with this equation, and we did the L. So stack your coordinates and draw your L. And then again, 12 minus -18, 11 minus 12. When we keep change, that gives me 30 over -1, which is -30. So either way you solved that problem, you got a slope of -30. Step 2 says to find the y-intercept and plug in what you know. Well, when I plug in what I know, I have y equals, I know my m is -30. And then I have x plus b. That's all I know at this point. I want to be able to solve for b, but I just have too many variables. So our third step is telling us to solve for b, I need a coordinate. So we're just going to pick one that we're given at the top. So right now I have y equals -30x plus b. The coordinate that I'm going to pick, I'm going to use 11, 12. And I'm just going to make a note to you right here. I'm using 11, 12 simply because the numbers are positive. That is the only reason I picked 11, 12 over 12, -18. If I have the chance to use positive numbers, I am absolutely going to use them. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in what we have. So y is now 12. I'll try to keep my color coordinating going for you. -30 doesn't change. X is 11. And then we have plus b. So then we're going to simplify right here. -30 times 11 gives me -330 plus b. This is right back to the one-step equation like we were looking at on Monday. To get b by itself, what is the opposite of subtracting 330 or -330? It is positive 330. So we're going to add 330 to both sides. Those cancel out because they're opposites. I'm left with b and an equal sign. And when I add 12 and 330, I get 342 for my b value. So step 4 is to fill in slope-intercept form. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. When you write in slope-intercept form, we are always going to have our y equals, instead of m, our m was -30, x, and then my b value is a positive 342. So we'll write plus 342. So our equation is y equals -30x plus 342. Now, I'm not going to write out step-by-step instructions for the next two examples. So let's go ahead and look at those together. Here's my next example. So the first thing that I need to do is find my slope. So the formula for slope, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now I'm just going to plug in what I know. So up here we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So now when I plug in, m equals -8 minus -5 over 0 minus -12. -8 minus -5, I'm going to keep change, and that's going to give me -3. 0 minus -12, when I keep change, that'll give me a positive 12. For slope, you need to simplify, and we will end up with -1/4 as our slope. Now, I know some of you prefer to draw the L, so I'm going to work that out for you as well. So remember, we stack our two coordinates up, draw your L down the middle, then we have -8 minus -5. We have 0 minus -12. Again, I'm going to keep change, and I get -3 over 12, which is -1/4. So either way, I still found the slope to be -1/4. Before I go into solving for B, I want to show you something really quick, and it's just going to be with an example. So over here, I'm just drawing a coordinate grid. And I'm going to put a point at -3, 0. And I'm going to put a point at 0, 2. I'm just going to connect my line. Let's just go ahead and graph a line while we're at it. This point right here is -3, 0. This is your x-intercept. It is where it crosses the x-axis. This point is 0, 2. That is your y-intercept. Remember, that's a b value because it touches the y-axis. So a big hint that I want to give you is a y-intercept is always going to be written in a coordinate 0 and then a number. If it is an x-intercept, it is always going to be written as a number and then 0. So now that we have that helpful hint over there, I want to direct our attention back to this coordinate right here. I have 0, -8. Remember, 0 and then a number is your y-intercept. So I should be able to jump straight to my equation and say y equals mx plus b. Y equals, my slope was -1/4 x, and then my b, my y-intercept, was -8 up there at the top. So I should be able to skip all the work. If you want to see the work to see how that works out, I'll work it out for you. So we're going to plug in what we know, and I'm still going to just use 0, -8, because if one coordinate has a 0, that's the one I am going to use. So we plugged in our 0 and our -8 where we knew where they were. -1/4 times 0 will still be 0, so -8 equals 0 plus b. When you subtract 0 to get b by itself, b equals -8. So if I were to go write that equation from the work that we did, it would be y equals -1/4 x, and my b value was -8. So regardless, if I did the work or that I just recognized the y-intercept from a coordinate, I was able to get the same equation. Let's do one more together. So the first thing we need to do is we need to find our slope. And remember, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so I'm just going to label our points up here and then plug in. We're going to have 2 minus 0 over 1 minus negative 3. 2 minus 0 is 2. 1 minus negative 3, if you keep change, will give you 4. And 2/4 is simply 1/2. Now, if you prefer the L method, we're going to stack them up. Negative 3, 0, and 1, 2. I will stack them up and draw my L. And I have 2 minus 0 and 1 minus negative 3. And if you notice, that's the same thing I had on the other side. So I have 2 over 4, which is 1/2. So after I find my slope, I'm going to write down y equals mx plus b. Plug in my slope. So it would be y equals 1/2 x plus b. Now I need to pick a coordinate that I want to use. Again, I have one that has 0 and I have one that's a 1 and a 2. I'm going to choose the one that has the 0 with it. So I'm going to have 0 equals 1/2 times negative 3 plus b. So 0 equals, right here, this would be 1/2 times negative 3 over 1. So 0 equals negative 3 over 2 plus b. To get b by itself, to undo minus 3/2, we add 3/2. And b equals 3 over 2. So to write my equation, I would have y equals, my slope, my m was 1/2 x, and then my b value is a positive 3/2. Now, with slope, I really want you to leave them as fractions. Please do not change them to decimals. Leave the fractions. It's just as simple. And a fraction slope is what you're going to have to be able to graph it tomorrow.